Second daw. Yan na, malapit na. Mga kameta, 1 second daw. Check lang natin yung internet natin dito. Ganun talaga. Yun. Ayan na. Kamusta kayo dyan, mga kameta? Yung mga kapuyat natin dyan. Pasensya na talagang kitang-kita nyo sa itsura natin na medyo puyat talaga tayo. Eto, grabe mga kameta, no? Grabe yung mga elections kagabi. So until morning talaga fina-follow natin yung mga elections to see if may pag-asa ba talaga itong mga opposition dyan sa both Turkey and Thailand. And base mga kameta dun sa mga resulta na pumapasok, looks like in Thailand we already have a landslide victory, no? Dun sa opposition forces. At hindi lang landslide victory for the opposition forces but for very young leaders, mga kameta. Very, very young leaders. We're looking at people in their 30s, people in their early 40s. At yung pinaka nag-top na party, no? Ay isang partido mga kameta na napaka literally young party because this party was just resurrected out of the ashes of an earlier dissolved party which in itself was a very youthful party. At yung potentially next prime minister ng Thailand, if not the next prime minister and deputy prime minister ng Thailand, mga kameta, are potentially going to be the two young individuals you see there at the very top, no? And that tells you a lot about the electoral earthquake na nangyari sa Thailand. So sobrang no match po yung mga government or pro-government or actually pro-military government forces. Wipe out sila dun sa election mga kameta. So this is a very, very interesting development because most of the polls were suggesting that there will be one dominant party that will come out of this, essentially the Pheu Thai party of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. If you can think of Thaksin Shinawatra, as I said, mga kamete, parang isa siyang combination of like Binay, Erap, Tatay Digong, may pagka, you know what I'm saying? And then, of course, the business savvy side of him, you can say even a bit of Villar. So, very, very dominant figure ito si Thaksin Shinawatra sa kasaysayan ng Thailand, especially over the past 20-25 years. So, everyone was expecting na yung anak niya, of course, yung person that you see on the top to the left, no, that his daughter were more or less, kind of halfway into the office of the prime minister because the expectation was the Pheu Thai party, mga kameta, will be able to take home close to 200, 250, if not up to 300 votes, seats dun sa kanilang Kongreso lower house. So up to 400 up to 500 seats were up for grabs. And then, of course, may division yan between yung party representation and constituent representation. Medyo komplikado yan. But, mga kameta, no one saw that actually the party that will come very much on top is the Move Forward party of the gentleman to the right and below. So, siya yung star of the moment. Star of the moment. Sabi ko nga, parang ito yung Vico Soto ng Thailand, or maybe Vico Soto should watch very carefully career of the potentially the next prime minister of Thailand to see what could come up for him down the road. This is a fascinating moment, mga kameta, sa kasaysayan ng Thailand, Thai politics. Alam natin na Thai politics is very, very contentious, Very, very problematic. And just to be clear, right off the bat mga kameta, sabihin natin dito, walang kasiguraduhan na indeed any of the winners of the latest elections will eventually become the prime minister because may say pa rin ang kanilang military dahil sa yung ginawa nilang Senado, no? So for you to become the prime minister of Thailand, you really need the buy-in not only of the majority, so more than 300 members of their lower house or yung Kongreso, but kailangan mo rin dito mga kameta yung suporta ng Senado nila which are mostly appointed by the military junta, no? Appointed a few years ago. So, tignan natin kung anong mangyari dito. So, some are suggesting that a kind of a compromise coalition may be inevitable, meaning that the current winners from the opposition may need to team up with more military leaning conservative party, a small conservative party, because if this becomes an all opposition party mga kameta, baka magre-rebelde yung kanilang Senado na medyo nandun sa kanilang mga tatay, military tatays, di ba? So this is going to be a very, very tricky situation. But there was a statement a while ago by the future forward winner party, yung kanya si Pita, ayon sa kanya, Pita Limharonrat. Sorry, medyo mahirap yung pangalan ng mga Thai to be honest about it. Not that my name is like not exotic. But si Pita has very much suggested mga kameta na he's not gonna team up with anyone who's not from the opposition. And in fact, one reason he did very, very well in these elections, mga kameta, is precisely because of the uncompromising stance that he took on issues like corruption, on issues like liberal democracy, at yung kanyang unwillingness to team up with any of the trapos or yung mga tinitingnan nilang trapos as far as Thai elections is concerned. So let's see how this is going to pan out mga kameta in the coming days. So it's going to be very tricky. It's going to be very, very contentious. But it's also very, very interesting because I think really, really, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this is crazy. Sobrang na-wipe out yung kabila. Now, just to give you a background mga kameta, itong partido nila na Move Forward Party, as I said, it's a very, very young party and it's more like a social democratic party. Something closer to, isipin nyo parang Akbayan and yung more original version ng Raul Roco's Action Democratico kind of coming together. It's much closer to that mga kameta kung titingnan nyo itong Move Forward Party. Interestingly, the genesis of the party actually goes back to, mga kameta, to a kind of a tycoon billionaire who, at ito yung talagang interesting sa kanila compared sa atin, no? Sa kanila, yung mga young tycoon billionaire nila, yung iba sa kanila, they are actually pro-democracy and they're willing to fight for democracy, no? I'm talking, of course, Thanatorn Juan Gruangkit. Okay, please really forgive me. Medyo mahirap yung mga pangalan nila. Let's just say Thanathorn. Right? So, ito po yung gentleman na nag-found ng original version ng Move Forward Party. A very young, charismatic, billionaire guy. So, ito po siya. Ito yung original, no? Nag-found nung party na Future Forward Party. Alright, Future Forward Party. Siya po yung Vice President of Thai Summit Group. So, ito yung largest auto parts manufacturer sa Thailand. So, yung mga iba dyan sa atin na may mga Japanese cars at kumukuha ng mga spare parts dyan sa Banao, etc. Kung made in Thailand yan, baka most likely ginawa ng Thai Summit Groups yan. So, this Mr. Thanatorn really used his economic heft, his business acumen, etc., British educated siya at the University of Nottingham and also at New York University. He was there to really push mga kameta, no? Really, really push for a kind of a new party that supports the interests of the youth, of the middle class, and much more liberal, progressive version, no, for Thailand, no? So, party doon niya was dissolved after a few years, right? Dahil alam naman natin sa Thailand, it's very very tricky to push for a progressive party because if the military or the monarchy and establishment feel na you're a threat to them or you're questioning some of the sacrosanct values of Thai politics, they're going to dissolve. And that's exactly what happened. Na-dissolve itong Future Forward Party But it came back as Move Forward Party na hindi ganun ka iba, no? Dun sa Future Forward Party. But the leadership was changed, and this is where PETA comes into the picture. Now, PETA is also very fascinating, interesting character. Very young, I think he's in his early 40s. And if you look at PETA, he's a graduate of Harvard University and MIT, on scholarship, hindi yung dahil mayaman yung kanyang ano, or ano, alam niyo na, diba? Connect the dots. So, move forward. So the party doesn't go away. It comes back even stronger under PETA, right? And out of nowhere, what we see, mga kameta, is that really this so one reason why PETA was so successful, mga kameta, is first of all, he's very young and charismatic and energetic. I mean, grabe yung makikita mo yung campaigning niya, no? Right, left, right, all over the place, diba? Sobrang energetic, sobrang uncompromising. Now, just to give you an idea about how radical this party is by at least Thai politics standards. In fact, you can even say by Philippine politics standards. So this is a party that has pushed for, among other things, a radical increase in the minimum wages to almost $13. We should put it higher than a lot of states in the United States. So gusto nila talaga mataas yung minimum wage para yung mga masa dyan sa Thailand will have a decent, respectable life. They're pushing for same-sex marriage. Again, something that actually is taboo from a more conservative Buddhist standpoint. More importantly though, they're targeting actually the two pillars of conservative party dyan sa Thailand, particularly mga kameta, the monarchy and the military, by first questioning yung mandatory military service and recruitment, and second, so doon hindi matuwa yung military, and second, also questioning mga kameta, yung les majest, no? Yung mga laws sa Thailand kung saan hindi mo pwedeng supposedly bastusan. I mean, for instance, may national anthem dyan sa Thailand, tapos di ka tumayo, tapos andun yung picture ng kanilang monarchy. Pwede ka makulong for that, mga kameta. Ganon ka-strict sa Thailand. So parang sacrosanct yung kanilang king. So there are many, and of course, the fear of the opposition is that that law can be used to imprison anyone who even mildly criticizes or doesn't say something very positive about the institution of monarchy, no matter how questionable the practices of the reigning king may be. And of course, I'm sure familiar kayo dun sa current king ng Thailand, quite a controversial person. We can have a whole episode about that. So, we are looking at a party that is very progressive sa economic issues, very progressive sa social-cultural issues, but also very daring and audacious dun sa political issues na napaka-sensitive sa context ng Thailand. And yet, mga kameta, they were able to pull off a massive victory, even beat yung populist party ni Thaksin, no? Yung Poi Thai party, no? This is just incredible. So you're talking about the person who didn't have really much of an experience in executive government. I think MP lang si yung kanilang, I mean, I think we're just looking at someone who served as a member of parliament shortly. So this is really next level, mga kameta, what happened here in Thailand. And what really makes this also interesting is because there was a conscious effort, mga kameta, to reach out to the youth and the middle class in Thailand, which has been sick and tired, mga kameta, which has been very much sick and tired of the usual politics. Essentially, the fight between Dilaw, yellow shirts nila, and pula, yung kanilang red shirts. Now, obviously, it doesn't have a direct correspondence sa case ng Philippines, but just to make it simple, actually it has some parallels in the Philippines. The red shirts for a long time, these were supporters of Thaksin, and they're quite similar in terms of demographic dun sa supporters ng Unity, BBM, and Duterte, no? At least in terms of core supporters. And then the yellow shirts, ito yung mga supporters ng monarchy, supporters of a more liberal government, and kind of anti-populist, and at some point even, anti-democratic, no? And then some of these yellow shirts, actually, the right, even supported the military coup to get rid of the populist Thaksin Shinawatra government, also the sisters government, Yingluck. And people were wondering if this will keep going on and on and on, if another Thaksin, this time the daughter, will end up as the prime minister of the country. But out of nowhere, mga kameta, we have this whole binary of yellow versus red getting essentially thrown out of the window because you now have a third force. A third force, mga kameta, that is beyond both Dilaw and Pula. No? And again, this is very relevant because isn't that exactly what we were also looking at the case of the Philippines, whereby we really need a third force, mga kameta, a third force that rejects both populist authoritarianism, but also rejects more elitist liberalism in favor of something that is more youth oriented, more progressive, more authentic, more energetic in terms of leadership, and also more catered towards the youth and the urban middle class, the rising middle class, the working class. So this is really what's fascinating, mga kameta, because a few years ago, it would be very hard to imagine someone like PITA and a party like Move Forward Party that runs on a platform that goes against the core tenets of Thai politics, that goes even against cultural norms in Thai society, that pushes for very aggressive pro-workers, labor union policy, that this kind of party will come on top. I mean, this was something that was quite unthinkable only a few years ago. And when the Future Forward Party was banned, mga kamay, a few years ago, people thought that this is it. It's over. And yet they came back and they came back stronger than ever. Now, obviously, as I said, kailangan natin pag-aralan sa Pilipinas yan because it tells you something about how the opposition can reinvent itself in the Philippines. No? Now, just to give you an idea how difficult politics is in Thailand, they have had, what? Close to a dozen coups, right? Over the past century. So every time there's an elected government, democratic elected government, but if the government is seen as threatening the pillars of power of the monarchy, nako po, makukudeta sila. So just to give you an idea about, let's run down through the coup, no? Just to give you an idea about how contentious and problematic and difficult running in democratic elections is in Thailand. Let me just run through all the coups that happened over the past century and so, no? So 1932, the Siamese Revolution ends centuries after royal rule, officially establishing constitutional monarchy and democracy in Siam, later called Thailand. No? But here we are, mga kameta. From 1930s onwards, there'll be a very strongly politicized military bureaucratic elite. No? So 1947, so ito, King Bumipol, yung former king nila, he saw during his 70-year reign 10 coups and 17 constitution. No? So there was 1947, there's a coup by royalist military forces that ended the People's Party political role. 1957, the Les Majestés laws against insulting the king. This was again carried into a criminal code to make it very difficult to challenge the monarchy. 1973, there are massive pro-democracy protests. Many people get killed. And then, there's temporary democracy. But by 1976, two military leaders ousted in 1973 by the student protests come back to power. No? And then 1976 to 1991, you had multiple military royalist governments in power. 1992, more than 50 protesters were killed during the so-called Black May crackdown on demonstrations against another coup. King Bumipol subsequently intervenes, a period of democracy and follows. 2001, this is where Thaksin Shinawatra comes in. He's elected prime minister on a populist platform. But 2006, na overthrow siya ng isang coup. No? 2007, a Thaksin-allied party wins. And then 2008, sobrang grabe na, gulo-gulo na naman yan. Away ng mga yellow shirt, red shirt. By 2010, red shirts occupied to central Bangkok for months almost, for more than 2 months. Then there's a crackdown by government, by the so-called yellow shirts. 90 people are killed. Very, very, very violent. 2011, a Thaksin-allied party again wins. The sister comes to power. More anti-Thaksin protests. 2014, there's another coup. Army Chief Prayut Chan Ocha comes to power. So, eto na talaga mga kameta. And then 2020, court dissolves yung opposition party na sinasabi ng Future Forward Party based on some whatever charges against student leader protests commenced. Nakita natin yung mga protests by very young kids, no? Very young students, no? A few years ago, even at the height of the pandemic. And then now, the students, the middle class, the progressives, they come back stronger than ever, and they beat everyone else. Thaksin party, military-aligned party, oligarch-backed parties. This is next level, mga kameta. This is next level. So nothing like this has happened in a place like the Philippines, no? And I'm just telling you how difficult the situation is in Thailand, how contentious their politics has been, mga kameta. And it will remain to be contentious for quite some time. Pero tignan mo naman yung fighting spirit ng kanilang, their people. And my goodness, yung restrictions on, forget about disinformation, the restrictions on information is immense. You might say something na hindi nagustuhan ng kabila, pwede ka makulong. Forget about libel charges, you're talking about les majest laws, insulting of the king, that has very, very steep penalty in Thailand, mga kameta. So, incredible odds they had to overcome. And as I said, mga kameta, in the Philippines, we can have we have kind of potential leaders like that, but much more has to be done. I don't think Vico Soto in his current approach is gonna make much of a dent in ways that he should, unless he really steps up, goes on the offensive, aggressive over the next coming years. But we need, but hindi tayo pwedeng umasa kay Vico Soto lang, just one figure, etc. We need multiple young leaders to keep on pushing the envelope, mga kameta. No, not just one person. That's exactly what happened in Thailand, mga kameta. You didn't have just one young leader. You had multiple young leaders coming up, constantly pushing the envelope, making their own parties. Then their parties get banned. They push for another party. They bring in the people. They bring in the students. They bring in enthusiasm. So what I'm saying here, Mahameta, is let's be honest. We cannot compare the Philippines to the United States or France or some of the more developed countries on so many levels. But if we just look around, just nearby countries, just look at Thailand, a country that is also developing country, a country that's even more difficult political conditions than the Philippines, more restrictions on freedom of expression, more restrictions on freedom of mobilization and assembly. And yet, mga kamera, nakita natin, push yung opposition, push yung mga young leaders, and eventually here we have this super big victory, no? And what I really like about the Thai young leaders is that they're just, they're unapologetic, they're uncompromising, they're energetic, they're charismatic. They have no problem reaching out to the media or discussing things with the media. I mean, I don't know about Vico Soto. It's so hard to even have a decent interview with that person. I don't know when was the last time. But we need mga kameta, leaders like that, leaders like Pita, young leaders who are just willing to get down and dirty and to really risk it all if necessary, for the future of their country. As Pita Limaron Rat said, this is about good governance, good economics, and also good future for the Thai people. And what I always say is, if the Thai could make it under these super tough conditions, mga kameta, if the Thais could make it under these super tough conditions, why can't the Philippines make it? Considering that our history has had more bouts of democratic contestation and far fewer bouts of coup, or we don't have a conservative monarchy to deal with. I don't know, mga kamed. And I'm also wondering if we're gonna have, young leaders, young tycoons who are willing to get into politics and bankroll and support progressive politics, as we saw in the case of Thailand. So I mentioned a while ago, uh, Tana Thorn, no, for instance, who's the young leader who really is the locomotive and engine behind the first iteration of the Future Forward Party, a Move Forward Party, no, when he found the Future Forward Party. Tuloy-tuloy lang yan. Ito mga kameta, if you have one charismatic, if you have a whole group of palaban na leaders, no, especially young leaders, progressive leaders, even if you take down one, more and more will come. You're inspired more and more. Yun talagang kailangan mga kameta. Yun lang kulang talaga sa Pilipinas. And what I'm saying is that super talaga, you have to also take the leap of faith, because as I said, many dismiss the Future Forward Party, Move Forward Party as too radical, as too youthful, as too out of touch with the consensus of societies, but they never compromised. They kept on pushing, they kept on rallying, they kept on going around, they kept on showing courage, and it paid off big time, mga kameta, big time. And as I said, just like Thailand, we have to also go above the whole binaries of yellow versus red. Thailand is finally getting that answer, kind of a third force. And that's also what we need here sa Pilipinas. I am not sure, to be honest, if the pink movement is yet the third force, but it could be a microcosm or a microcosm of a real third force down the road if push lang ng push at constantly may inspire ng mga charismatic and young leaders. So if Thailand can do it, I always say the Philippines also can do it. All right, mga kameta, thank you very much. I'm not gonna push the argument further. I'm still following what's happening in Turkey. Mukhang sa Turkey, the fight was really, really close. So it's gonna go into round of elections. But remember, in Turkey, there are big questions about the integrity of elections. Again, sobrang mas problematic ang Turkey kaysa Pilipinas. Imagine a Tatay Digong there, but except a very savvy one, quite a competent one, at least in his earlier years, and still young, a very strong, mobilization on the ground. That's Rajab Tayyip Erdogan, right? And yet, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu came close to getting the 50% vote. They kept it very close. There's still going to be a lot of contestation, but let's see where this is going to go. Nevertheless, whatever happens, grabe sa Turkey. They kept it very close, almost 50-50 ang breakdown dito. Now, compare that to, you know what, right? It's not even close, right? It's not even close. And I always ask also, saan yung mga young, progressive, charismatic leaders, tycoons, whatever natin? Again, there are many missing ingredients for the Philippines to really have a robust democratic movement. Daming missing ingredients. Lack of leadership, lack of mobilization, so much so. And yun yung problema. When you criticize, magagalit pa sila sa'yo. When in fact, your criticism is actually more a critic based on the inspiration that you can get from other countries. And I said, there's a lot to watch in our neighboring countries. You don't need to go to US or other countries. Just tignan nyo lang yung mga kapitbahay natin na mas mahirap pa at mas problematic pa yung kanilang kalagayan. And yet their opposition delivers far better, far more mobilized, far more driven, no? And far more participation by the youth. This is extremely important, mga kameta. All right? On that note, thank you very much, guys, and talk to you soon.